We've all heard it. Mary Boleyn was the pretty one, the English Rose Boleyn who took after the glamorous Howard side, while Anne Boleyn was the darker, less ideal beauty. But how much of that is fact and how much is fiction? I'm historian and author Claire Ridgway, and today I'm peeling back the myths and asking what we can actually say about Mary's looks. Now, the short answer is that we don't actually have a single contemporary named description that says Mary had X hair and Y eyes. And the popular images of Mary, golden hair tumbling like a stream, bright grey eyes with a long face and long nose, come straight from modern fiction, the other Boleyn girl. They're evocative, but they're not evidence. Even Mary's mother, Elizabeth Howard, often called a beauty, doesn't have a securely identified portrait. John Skelton's praise of her in his poem Garland of Laurel celebrates grace and virtue more than measurable features, although he does write, "Of all your beauty I suffice not to write." But, as her biographer Sophie Backus-Waterman notes, there are no surviving portraits of Elizabeth Howard, and any talk about her colouring is educated guesswork, filtered through Tudor beauty ideals. People also say that Mary Boleyn took after the Howards. And when we do see Howard faces, those of Thomas Howard, 3rd Duke of Norfolk, Mary Howard, Duchess of Richmond, Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, those portraits show a range, often long faces, sometimes strong noses, but colouring that varies. Nothing here guarantees a blonde, light-eyed Mary or rules that out. And family resemblance isn't a smoking gun. As for the Boleyns and Butlers, we're largely in the dark. Thomas Boleyn's memorial brass shows a slender man with a long face and pointed chin. That's it. And Anne Boleyn appears to have had dark eyes and dark hair, either dark brown or a dark auburn, but her sister could have been completely different, as many sisters are. You'll hear that Thomas Boleyn's chaplain John Barlow said that Mary was prettier than Anne, but the famous line, "the other lady more beautiful still," likely compared Anne to Henry's earlier mistress, Bessie Blunt, not to Mary. Is not a Mary versus Anne beauty verdict at all. So what can we use to try and figure out what Mary looked like? Well, here's the good news. A major research project has identified a 17th century portrait type of Mary Boleyn with hard evidence, wood science, provenance and family links. In 2020, the Jordaens Van Dyck Panel Paintings project examined a set of 14 beauties that had once hung together in Queen Anne's bathing room at Windsor. 13 ladies wear 17th century dress, one sitter wears Tudor dress and had long been treated as a stray. However, tree ring dating, that's dendrochronology, on the oak support shows that the Tudor dress panel and a second beauty were both cut from the same Baltic oak tree, felled after 1629. That ties them together physically. Then images of the two portraits when they were owned by Philip Lord Wharton, a descendant of Mary in the 17th century, show them with named inscriptions identifying the sitters as Mary Boleyn and Margaret Smith, later Lady Herbert, who married Mary Boleyn's great-grandson Thomas Carey before later marrying Sir Edward Herbert. The set is attributed to artist Remigius van Leemput, who died in 1675, a brilliant copyist in Van Dyck's circle. These are Stuart period copies after earlier likenesses, made for or cherished by descendants. Put simply, the wood match plus family inscriptions and the Carey-Wharton descent strongly suggests that the Royal Collection's portrait of a woman is Mary Boleyn, and a copy of the same type hangs at Hever Castle. But she's wearing ermine! Well, you may have heard that Mary couldn't legally wear ermine and that rules her out as the sitter. Well, no. Research by Maria Hayward shows that there was no blanket ban in force after 1463, and as Susan Higginbotham notes, Mary's first husband, William Carey, was an esquire of the body, which means that Mary would have been entitled to wear it anyway. Across the Royal Collection panel and the Hever version and other copies in the family network, the sitter presents with fair, clear skin with natural colour in the cheeks, rounded or gently oval face, eyes that are hazel or light brown, brows and slight show of hair that suggest dark blonde, auburn, light brown hair colour. Now, exact shades can shift with varnish and copy, but taken together, this type places Mary within that fair to light brunette spectrum that people imagine. We can also look carefully at Mary's children, whose portraits survive from Elizabeth I's reign. Catherine Carey, Lady Knowles, in a portrait by Stephen van der Meulen, is shown with a light fair complexion, reddish auburn to light brown hair, and composed even features. Henry Carey, Lord Hunsdon, in a portrait by Stephen van Herwyck, is depicted with light brown hair and beard with ruddy colouring. Now, do these prove Mary's exact colouring? No. Portraits reflect a sitter's age, the fashion, the studio, and later restoration, and genetics are messy. But it's interesting that Mary's children often present in that same fair to light brunette auburn zone that we see in Mary's identified type, although we have to bear in mind that Elizabethan men were known to dye their beards red in honour of the Queen, and women dyed their hair. Think of these portraits as supporting hints, not really hard evidence. What we still can't say? Well, we can't measure her height, we can't be certain of eye colour, and we can't swear that every copy is equally faithful. Remember, these are 17th century studio portraits, possibly of a Tudor era likeness. They give us a credible face, grounded in family memory and evidence, but they're not like a modern photo. So, was Mary the beautiful Boleyn? Well, we just don't know. She was pretty enough to attract King Henry VIII, but the tidy split, Mary the Beauty and the Dark One, is a modern oversimplification. Anne's magnetism was often described in terms of wit, style and presence as much as looks, plus there was something about her eyes. That comes up a lot. Mary's allure likely blended appearance with charm and perhaps her availability at the right moment. Our best visual for Mary is now this Van Leemput type, but I'm not sure how much it really tells us about the real Mary Boleyn. No, we don't have a line-by-line contemporary description. Yes, we do have a securely identified portrait type, backed by wood science, family inscriptions and descent. And that image shows a woman with fair, light complexion, hazel to light brown eyes, and dark blonde to light brown or auburn hair. A softly rounded face that fits neither extreme stereotype. This is history, not Hollywood. Do you think these portraits of Mary Boleyn give us enough to go on, or are they too different from each other? Is Mary Boleyn still a complete mystery? Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, then please do give it a like, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, and consider joining my channel membership for lots more Tudor goodies. Oh, and do check out my Mary Boleyn playlist for more on this enigmatic Tudor lady. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.